Okay, here I am, this is my microphone, to talk about some food for thought. So, the other day, somebody asked me what my perfect happiness was. And one, I don't think that exists, but it reminded me of my recent interview with Alexandra Fine from Dame Products and how we talked about the importance of exploring all the different versions of ourselves and getting to know how we're different with different people, what parts of us we like or don't like, what feels authentic, what feels inauthentic, and how actually getting to know the things, be it jobs, in your career, in a relationship, in sex, learning what we don't like really helps us hone in on and better understand what it is that we really do like or what we're looking for. For example, in a career or in a relationship is a better example. In the interview, she talked a bit in the context of sex, but more so in these other situations when people say, go after what you want, or go after, the person you want, the career you want, what do you want to be? That's not nearly as simple as people make it sound to know exactly what you want to be. And yes, I think some people grow up knowing they want to be a doctor from when they're 5 years old and they know for the rest of their life. Or yes, some people meet somebody in high school and they know that's it. But I think for a lot of people, we have no idea. And one, because that's not as easy to figure out as people make it sound. And two, because there is no one thing, one career, one person, or one version of ourselves that could give us incredible joy and happiness. And so I think that there is no perfect happiness, because perfect would imply better than other alternatives. And I think that there is no one path, one destination. And this was something that really spoke to me when I heard about an interview with an extremely successful businessman. And he was asked in the interview if he could imagine what his life would be like if he'd made different decisions, if he'd had different outcomes, and if he could imagine himself as happy as he was that day had things turned out differently. And his answer was extremely simple. Of course. Of course he could. He talked about how he had no idea what he would have done, how different his decisions would have been, where he would have ended up. He said for all he knows, maybe he would have become a writer or a chef. There's no way to know. But what he did know with certainty was that he could have ended up just as happy. And for all he knows, maybe even happier. And so it's just this amazing reminder that it is wonderful to hone in on the things we already do know that we want, where we want to be, who we want to be, but that it's perfectly fine if we don't know. And that if all we're doing is finding things we don't like, or dating people we don't like, or in a career that we're not satisfied by, that's okay. Definitely there's a learning curve. And so it's really important to make sure you're not staying in that situation or that relationship when you're no longer learning anything, if it's not serving you. I often say we should be learning or having fun, ideally both. But if you're not doing either, then whether it's your job or a relationship, you should get out. And it's time to keep learning. And maybe it will be something else that won't be what we expected. But that's why they're called expectations, because sometimes things aren't what we expect. The results aren't that. And so it's important to go into things with intentions, perhaps not having expectations that are extremely fixed, or perhaps knowing that it's very likely it won't be what we expected, and that's okay. And we can learn from that, and we should learn from that. And to also remember that we shouldn't just be looking for one thing, one source of happiness, one route, one perfect outcome, but that all of those things help us really hone in and get closer to whatever version of us, whatever version of that happiness we want to have, and that we could be just as good at or just as happy in another circumstance we're not familiar with. And that all of these other experiences give us perspective and help guide us to getting closer to that version of our happiness that, might change throughout life, but that can serve us in such an incredible way, and that we would perhaps not understand as well and appreciate as much without the perspective of all those other experiences that led us there in the first place.